Kristina Mering from Untitled Chapter or Anima International. Kristina Mering is founder and president of Untitled Chapter. It's complicated. The Estonian branch of Anima International. She is also a sociologist with the focus on human-animal relations. She has been involved in the animal rights movement for almost 15 years. This is her second presentation in which she will introduce a topic of peak performance, how neuroscience can help us reach our best results for the animals. In this presentation, Kristina will share what neuroscientists have defined to be peak performance and how you can actually change your ability to focus and deliver the best version of yourself when fighting for animals. So thank you, and the microphone is yours.
Thank you, Martin. I will be sharing my screen. I hope it worked. Yes. So sorry for being so vain, and this is my second presentation of the day, but I hope that I can offer some value, and it will be interesting and useful for you, since we all work in the field of knowledge work, which is different from algorithmic work, which used to be the norm beforehand, where the majority of the workforce worked in factories where you sadly didn't need to do or didn't have to do too much of thinking. But now everything that we do, the majority of everything that we do for animals is goes under the knowledge work field. So I will be talking about peak performance and how neuroscience can help us achieve it. And I am definitely not a neuroscientist myself, but I am a big fan of neuroscience. So I will be sharing with you what I have read. Who were not at the previous presentation, then about me, that I'm the founder and president of Untitled Chapter. I have been active for animals for almost 15 years. My background is in sociology. I have a master's degree in it, and I read at least a book per week to make sure that my thinking stays sharp, and I am equipped with as much knowledge as possible, so that we can have a good fight for the animals, and we are informed about what science is doing research about, and what can help us to become better advocates for animals. So on today's topic, I have a question for all of you. That do you sometimes feel that you want to get important work done but can't concentrate? Can you, I don't know, show me? Do you sometimes feel that way, that it would be great to get work done, but it's hard to concentrate? I cannot see the chat room demo. No, I still cannot see it. I'm just taking a leap of, oh, now I see it. Okay, with exclamation marks. Yes, me too. I'm totally on board with that. And what I also feel is that sometimes the tasks that I'm doing in my work, they are important not just as such, but they are important because they have the potential to actually save lives. They have the potential to actually have a positive impact on the world and to reduce suffering. So I guess in my quest to understand how could I work more effectively, and how could I make sure that I am the best version of myself, that basically I am able to use my brain cells to bring as good as results to the animals as possible. I started reading about it, and I really hope that what I read will be helpful for you as well, because the point is that We all have this beautiful brain that is full of valuable and not so valuable information, all kinds of connections, and full of huge potential. And luckily, there are ways where we can hack our concentration a bit to be able to get this important work done more effectively. So, sorry. Yeah. So today I will be talking about what needs to happen in our brains for peak performance. What magical cocktail needs to take place in our brains? How can we help to make it happen? Because sometimes when you need to focus, you are not at your peak performance situation. And how to know which type of peaker are you? Because there are different ones. And I will be basing on these 3 books mostly. They are Your Brain at Work, The Leading Brain, and Peak, How All of Us Can Achieve Extraordinary Things. I really recommend reading these books. Whatever, like my best I can do today, it will not give enough credit to actually reading these books and thinking about your own working habits and your own brain situation, in the sense, because these are really, they are useful for very many different aspects of your life. So I really recommend reading them. And I hope that with this presentation, I can give you a small glimpse of what these books are covering. So let's begin. What is the cocktail of optimal performance? Meaning, what are our favorite neurotransmitters for effective work? And to rephrase it, what are the main neurotransmitters that need to be active for our performance to be at its best level? And the cocktail is quite simple. We need to have dopamine, noradrenaline, and acetylcholine released. And if all these 3 neurotransmitters meet together, then we are at our best. We are at the optimal performance. So just like a few words that neurotransmitters, they are that is a very interesting topic, in the sense that so far around 200 neurotransmitters have been discovered or indicated, but neuroscientists believe that there is a lot more going on there. And basically they are like a chemical messenger. It's a chemical substance in our brain that is responsible for so much of what we do, how we respond, how we perform, how we live our lives. But to think about how little we think that everything is just a chemical cocktail or influenced by some chemical substances, then I think that we are not giving these neurotransmitters enough credit. But let's give at least 3 of them enough credit then. The cocktail of peak performance by neuroscientists is said to consist of dopamine, as I mentioned, which is also called as the Kim Kardashian of neurotransmitters, because it is it is spoken about a lot. And when you feel excitement or novelty, risk, or when you are extremely focused, then that means that your dopamine levels are peaking. So it is also related to, for example, the feeling of addiction and the feeling that makes you want to have more of something. You want to do more of something. And also with the feeling of being high. You can also have a runner's high. It doesn't need to have illegal substances involved. But dopamine is related to that. And it explains that sometimes when you're starting a new project, you're feeling very excited, enthusiastic. You really want to work on that. Well, that is dopamine talking, most probably. And in order to reach our best level of performance, we need to have a certain amount of fun, of certain amount of amusement in the task, because without dopamine, without the fun chemical, without the Kim Kardashian of neurotransmitters, it will be really difficult for us to reach our peak performance. And I think this is a really interesting knowledge already, because very often you see the approach where, well, if you came here for fun, you can go home. We're not here for fun. We're here for, I don't know, getting results or something like that. But it's super interesting that if dopamine levels are depleted or really, really low, then we might not be able to reach our peak performance. So that means that sometimes, I don't know, cracking a joke in the midst of a difficult situation can actually be a good idea, because it releases dopamine, which is necessary for your brain to reach its peak performance. Okay, so our second favorite neurotransmitter to reach peak performance is noradrenaline. And this is related to like when you're bungee jumping, or when behind the corner a dog comes very fast, like an angry dog comes, something like that. Then noradrenaline is being released. And it's called like the survival chemical, basically, because it makes sure you stay alive. It gives you the fast reaction, fast attention, being very present. You become very aware of your surroundings when there is fear involved. So it's a fast reaction to danger, and enhances reaction speed. And when you're really high on noradrenaline, that was worded wrongly, sorry. When you have a high level of noradrenaline, that means that you spot your mistakes way more. That means you are alert. You notice, oh yeah, when you're writing something, that this doesn't really fit or work very well. So actually acknowledging the fact that fear can make you more effective. I know this is not a very nice or a kind thing to say, but we need noradrenaline in order to reach peak performance. So as I was saying before, we need the fun element, but we also need the scary element. So when I will be coming to recommendations on how to reach peak performance, we will be talking about fear for sure. And to reach a good level of noradrenaline, you need to be in a situation where you are slightly over challenged. So when you are performing a task, that means that it's like best described in a way that, okay, this is tricky, but I can handle it. In the way that, like, I am not a neuroscientist. I like to read about it. This is tricky talking about it, but I will do my best. Something like that. So in a task, this is how you best describe it. So noradrenaline is released when you push yourself to do a difficult task. When you go for it, basically. You still try, although you understand that you are slightly over challenged. And the third one, acetylcholine, that helps us keep the laser focus that we need to perform on a task. It's the basis of neuroplasticity, which is our brain's ability to create new connections, to grow. I think whenever someone asks me, what's the one thing in life that brings me the most hope, is neuroplasticity, because it means that everyone has the chance to learn, become better, to become wiser, smarter, etc. So this is what is related to neuroplasticity. And if we see something that is new, interesting, catches our eye, then that is related to acetylcholine as well. So this is the magical cocktail that we will be going after when we want to reach peak performance. And I brought out here a really good a drawing. It's called the Yerkes-Dodson law, and it's related to how anxiety affects performance. And I hope I will be able to describe it in a good way. But basically, the point of this graph to me is that we should not be afraid of arousal. We should not be afraid of arousal in the sense that we should not be afraid of stress, because an optimal level of stress actually increases our performance, meaning that it's not always bad to have your stress level growing up to a point, because that means that also your performance is getting better up to a point again. Because as you can see that on the graph, as the attention and interest grow, so does the performance level, meaning that your stress level is going, you're taking up a new task, it's difficult, you're doing research, writing, talking with people way smarter than you, etc. And you're getting better because it's also stressful. But then you reach the peak arousal, the optimal arousal and optimal performance point. And what happens is that if the stress level becomes too high, then your performance starts to go down. That is definitely a threat that people need to be super mindful of. But I sense that very often we might not even get to the curb where we let the stress level start to grow, because we're afraid, and we might be super sensitive. That means, no, I'm afraid of stress, basically. But what this Yerkes-Dodson law says, that a certain amount of stress will bring out the best in us, in the sense. And the focus is on a certain amount of stress. And we will be talking about the different approaches to that. So the premises of optimal performance. So this is like without the neurotransmitter talk. It means that we need to have excitement and interest, fun. We need to be excited about this. We need to come back to the why. Why is this important, what I'm doing? I need to be excited about this. Also the challenge. It needs to be like pretty close or a bit above my capabilities. And we need to have this laser focused effort where we focus on one task and one task only. We don't multitask between Facebook chatting and writing the most difficult article ever, or setting out the negotiation plan of a company to go cage-free or something like that. But there are different types of peakers, different types of peak performers. And let's look at them. What type of peakers are there? So basically in the leading brain, the authors bring out that there are two types. One is Louis Pasteur and the other is Gordo Cooper, a well-known spaceman or astrologist who was one of the a part of the first human mission in space, and I think he was on the longest first space flight. So as we can compare basically with on this graph, these different types of performers, they need different level of arousal. If you're a scientist doing research at a lab, you need a lower level of stress to be able to perform at your optimal level. But if you're the Gordo Cooper type of peaker, then you need a higher level of stress to be able to perform better. And basically, what these neuroscientists are saying, that for Louis Pasteur, if he would have a way too big of a stress level, then he would not be at his best. If he would need to go on a space travel, he would not bring the type of results that he brought as a scientist, as a chemist, and one of the founders of microbiology and the principles of vaccination, etc. But the same goes for Gordo Cooper. That if he would need to work at a laboratory, then he would not bring the kind of results that he did. when working at a higher stress level. So basically, these two types of peakers are, basically a lab researcher, which is a very, of course, there is stress involved, but the stress and arousal is at a way lower level than compared to an astronaut who can stand really high arousal for longer than usual when necessary. But the point is also that this does not mean that there are two groups, which is like you belong to one and that's that. This is not a fixed system, because the point goes that our levels of stress tolerance can be developed over time. So what this means in practice is that you can become from a lab researcher more towards an astronaut type of stress arousal, and finding your peak at higher arousal levels. I think I can definitely say that in my life, in my 20s now, I have definitely moved towards lab researcher, towards more astronauty. But that's because I have like explicitly took up the decision of not being afraid of these challenges, or maybe being forced upon these challenges, I don't know. But I think that I can definitely sense on myself that the peak level has changed a bit due to different types of arousal. What else affects our that people have different peak levels? They are different peakers, basically. Gender affects it. It means that testosterone impacts the way how we can handle stress and the way we peak. This does not mean in any way that women cannot stand high levels of stress, but this is something that should be taken into consideration. Also genes, because we have different dopamine receptors, and that means that they affect our need of novelty. Age, as testosterone decreases, you get less aroused, meaning that you don't need that high level of arousal anymore. The environment as well. It's super necessary to find the work pace and stress level that matches you, that fits with your whether inner Cooper or inner Pasteur. So that is important. And also experience, because as these neuroscientists point out, your ability to endure stress increases in time. So we should not be afraid to take on a bit of a bigger challenge or a new project to test our limits. And to find out when is your best performance, what matches your peaking characteristics. One thing is to be super aware of your stress levels. One chance or one opportunity to do that is to measure, this is subjective of course, measure your stress levels during different tasks and to understand when is it optimal. Do you rather feel that you thrive, you are at your flow state when you are doing, I don't know, negotiating or writing a really difficult article, or rather at some different task? Also, creating the best environment based on that knowledge. Stress levels and pace that match your inner cosmonaut or lab researcher. It can also mean that you know that whenever you have had a very difficult and peak performance type of stressful event, you take the time to let yourself recharge and do more of the scientist type of work tasks or something like that. Being mindful that the atmosphere or the environment where you are in impacts your peaking possibilities or your strength to be able to thrive at such a level. And also the third thing, we need to be really mindful that too much of a good thing is not so good. So that the cocktail of peak performance, it can be active temporarily, but we also need rest. because what can happen is that we deplete from these neurotransmitters, and then we're at a type of low position that might be even, I don't know, described with words or like depression-like symptoms, etc. Because we just, the neurotransmitter, they need rest, they need, we're out of that cocktail, like sold out. So making sure that we also rest from the peaking performance. So yeah, and there is one way to measure your stress scale. This is called the perceived stress scale. This is not some super objective tells you the truth, etc. But I think why it can be a good tool is that you ask yourself some important questions that helps you get a better understanding of how does stress impact your life. We are not going to go into depth with it here. I will share this later, so you can, if you are interested, you can do these, answer these questions, and do an insightful discussion with yourself about whether you need to increase stress, decrease stress, or think about your personal experience with that. And also about how can we sustain it for the long run. That I really like this quote by Axel Kowalski, a neuroscientist, which says that being in a high performance state all the time is detrimental. Being in a high performance state when it counts is a winning strategy. So as I mentioned, we don't have infinite resources on keeping this peak performance cocktail of dopamine, noradrenaline, and acetylcholine forever. So we need to be very mindful in bringing this cocktail to the table when is the best time and the best moment. So that is definitely an important point, that we need to give ourselves some rest in between as well. So, but how can we improve our performance? So the two most common or obvious recommendations are increasing stimulation and decreasing stress. So one recommendation brought out by these neurosciences is that, like, knowing your level of stimulation, and if we need to increase noradrenaline, then imagine being afraid. So if it means, for example, you're in a situation, as I was asking in the beginning, that you need to focus on an important task, but you find yourself unable to concentrate, then there are different ways of bringing up fear. One way that actually is being researched is that, for example, if you're afraid of spiders or something, you can actually think about spiders and what it will do. Okay, you will feel a bit bad for a moment, but you will get the necessary noradrenaline running, and it might help you reach the peak you need of this laser focus. But you can also, if spiders are not your thing, you can also think that, okay, I need to focus on this task. Let's say it's a really important article. Then what happens if I don't focus on this task? What happens if I fail with this? What happens? Yeah, it's like going quite gloomy, I know. What if, I don't know, we fail as a movement to fight for animal welfare or something like that? To me, that would work, because I would be afraid of that all the combined efforts of the smart people that we have would be failed or something like that. So whatever scares you can help you if you need to reach your laser focus. But at the same time, coming from a different point of view with dopamine, then with that, we need to use humor and positive thinking, whether it's, I don't know, again, you need to concentrate, but it's hard to do it. Whether it's then seeing the humor in this. Well, here I am trying to do this. Well, what the hell? Why am I not? Oh, if it's funny, if it's not. Or even what is recommended, if you have your favorite stand-up artist, actually watching 5 minutes of their stand-ups or jokes or whatever, that can also bring you the necessary dopamine. So that's pretty interesting. It doesn't count as procrastination or something. You can say that I am doing the necessary work to reach the neurotransmitters of peak performance. But basically, this is also something which is worthwhile mentioning in group work. That maybe encouraging that it's okay to, I don't know, crack a joke about the project or something like that. This can have a good effect, especially in stressful projects and stressful meetings or situations where you actually you need people to be at their best. So encouraging a positive humor-infected atmosphere can be a very good idea in meetings. But at the same time, keeping in mind the dreadful, gloomy fear, what will happen if we don't finish this brainstorm effectively or don't come to the best conclusions. So yeah, both are necessary. But sometimes when we come to the second part, decreasing stress level, sometimes it can happen that you need to focus on a task, whether it's, I don't know, writing a project plan or something like that. And you're so like, you're like blocked in yourself or you are so stressed, you are basically unable to work. So what would be good for our brain so that we could come back to being released from the stress is that getting your foot off the gas pedal and doing something on autopilot, which is pretty interesting because in some other productivity sources, I've heard that this is not a good idea, but I would rather put my trust in these neuroscientists, but like maybe I'm mistaken. But the point is that they even recommend something that if you're super stressed, if, oh my God, I cannot write the line of this, then doing something your brain, like you just delete some emails or you do something that is very easy, autopilot, that where you don't need to feel this level of stress can be good. And also physical activity. When you're completely blocked, you cannot perform because the stress level is too high, then taking the stairs or working out, it reduces cortisol, which might be one of the, like, it's a stress, it shows that you are super stressed. And working out can help to reduce it, to make sure that you come back to being your better self. And also just, I don't know, taking a walk or it doesn't mean you need to do, I don't know, a 2-hour full body workout. You can just like walk or run the stairs or do some push-ups or something really like that fits with your atmosphere and current place where you are. So increasing stimulation, both from either from the fear side or from the positive side, and decreasing stress can be really good things that might help us bring the cocktail of peak performance and these necessary neurotransmitters to the forefront. So these might be useful. So in the final part, I will bring out some tips which can help you reach peak performance from these books that I mentioned. So keeping in mind that optimal stress level is the key. So for peak performance, we need an optimal level of emotional excitement, also known as stress. And to keep in mind that this differs from person to person, but also it can be developed over time, that your tolerance to stress becomes better. But being mindful about like, when do I need more of it and when do I need less of it? Because we have both in our lives and in our work. That can be very informative for you to not overkill it, but not underkill it either. Also, for brain welfare, our brain needs glucose and oxygen for effective functioning, and make sure you have enough of both. And we probably all know these, I don't know, lecture rooms or classrooms, which are super stuffy. And it's like the air is so thick that you cannot breathe in it, basically. And for brain function, basically, you can just like not attend that lecture, and it, like when your brain is not getting enough oxygen, that is not a good idea. So I always remembered that at school I was the weird activist who wanted to open the windows during breaks. And I had no idea about any of this brain science stuff, but now I'm glad that I did, because we really need oxygen, because otherwise, you know that sometimes people start yawning when they are in a stuffy room that doesn't have enough air. And this isn't necessarily of a, it doesn't show that you are bored, but it just shows that you need oxygen. So being mindful of that. And also glucose. And why I chose the photo with a guy with Coca-Cola, that is an interesting story. Basically, Coca-Cola can actually help with peak performance. But the thing is, neuroscientists are doing research about it, but they cannot recommend it because they would start a full-on battle with dentists and other healthcare professionals, because it might help you. It has glucose, a lot of sugary drink. It can help you give your brain some food, but in the long run, you need your teeth. And so it's not a long-term recommendation. To be honest, my background is that I have never drank Coca-Cola. So after reading this research, I thought that I had some important tasks. Also writing my master's thesis, I thought, okay, but I'm gonna try. Like I never drink it, so having a few bottles, it doesn't matter in the long run, since I'm not gonna be an addict of it or something. And in the sense that it helped me, yeah, I was feeling more nearer to my peak. But I guess that, like, since I haven't drank it, I got such like stomach upset that it wasn't worth it at all. So yeah, but maybe if you're drinking it more often, your organism is used to that or something. But what one thing that can help, there are available these glucose drops, basically, and the point with them is also that don't use them too much. Don't like over consume them. That will be detriment, very bad idea. But if you know that, I don't know, once a month you do this really difficult task or something like that, then saving it for that might be okay. Do it very, very, very rarely. But so far, results have shown that this can be pretty good. Yeah.
You have 10 minutes left, Kristina.
Okay, cool. Thanks. Find the fun. Hooray. If you're having fun, your brain releases dopamine, which is necessary for short-term peak performance. And I say short-term here because long-term success, be able to work without the fun. So studies have shown that the best experts in music, sports, business, etc., that in order to succeed, you need to endure long, dull practice for years without end, and there is no dopamine involved. But since you are so motivated from the why, you know that whenever, like, I go running every day because eventually then I will be able to run a half marathon, something like that. Basically, you just like put in the hours and the kilometers just for the long term perspective. So this is something to be totally mindful of. If you need to go through a difficult meeting to come to results, then it's good to crack a few jokes or keep the atmosphere humored. But if you know that you are doing something for the long run, you need to put in very like cracking hours of work to reach better mastery, basically, then we need to be able to work without the fun, to be able to not only count on the dopamine. Yeah. And don't be afraid of a challenge, look for it. As I mentioned in my previous talk as well, sometimes I feel that people become so sensitive to stress that they're kind of like, this is too stressful, this is too challenging, I cannot do this, that they kind of block themselves out of a challenge and the chance to develop their skills to become better. But actually, best performance occurs when you're slightly over challenged, when you're not in a panic mode that, oh my God, I have no idea how to do this. And when you're not bored, that this is so boring, I have done this so many times, I can do it blindfoldedly, but you are slightly over challenged. Then your brain releases enough noradrenaline to keep you at an optimal level. So actually, slightly over challenging yourself is a very good idea, like for long-term welfare as well, because then you become better at it, and it gives you back this feeling of fulfillment. Also, talking about brain welfare, that prioritizing is very energy demanding for the brain, meaning that if you need to take everything that you are doing, you put them up to your prefrontal cortex, and then you need to start prioritizing what is the most important. Always do that in the beginning of the day when your energy levels are high, because when you do it in the evening, so far, brain science has shown that the results might not be as good because you're operating with less resources. So setting priorities is very energy draining for the brain. And also an important thought, focus on what is most important, because best performance or peak performance never happens when you do many things at once. Working in focused attention helps you reach optimal performance, because our brain is unable to multitask. It just like depletes our resources and doesn't get us better results. And also remembering the why of the task. When you feel stressed because you are either writing something difficult or doing a difficult task, which you feel that it's difficult to concentrate on, come back to why it's important. What will be the benefits? If we write out this plan, then we are able to start a team that will be able to bring this many results to the animals. We are able to undermine the animal industries, whatever your motivation is, but come back to the why. Why are you doing this? Why is this important? And it helps you release both the dopamine and acetylcholine when you're excited about the importance of the task. So you forget to be stressed about it because the why is so much more important. And also what these scientists bring out is that women should not be afraid of high stress levels, that although we often see men in high responsibility positions in our society, there is no brain specific reason why women shouldn't be there. And women can handle stress well if they're not afraid of it. So that is definitely one encouraging fact from neuroscience as well. So a quick recap. Basically, fear can be good if you're finding yourself not in your peak performance when trying to achieve a task. Imagine something scary, whether it's related to the task, what happens if you don't deliver well enough, etc. Also, use humor. Think of something amusing, find something funny in the situation, or check out a stand-up YouTube video that you know that will release dopamine. Focus on the importance. Remind yourself why this task is important. Why am I doing this? How will it help? And focus, keeping the most important thing in mind and not letting our mind and attention move through different tasks. And we have reached the end. Thank you, and I wish everyone very good peak performing.
Thank you, Kristina. Now it's time for questions. As you all probably know by now, we are submitting our questions through Slido. You can find the link and instruction in the comments, and you can post your questions. We have already first question, and we have still some 5 minutes, so there's a room for other questions too. So the first question is, if both stress / anxiety and motivation releases dopamine, wouldn't motivation be more healthy in the long run?
Sorry, I need to read this.
Okay, I can try to
yeah, I opened the Slido. Sorry.
Oh, you can do that too, or I can post the questions in the chat room.
Cool.
In case it was not pronounced very well.
Why am I not understanding the question? I'm sorry. I guess I have run out of necessary neurotransmitters or something. With dopamine, no. Maybe if I made the mistake that dopamine is the positive neurotransmitter. It's the fun emotion. It's the excitement in that sense. So yeah, so that is the focus of dopamine. Yeah.
Okay, we have another question from Hannah Marie. Are the recommendations the same for people who are night owls, have their peak focus late in the day, versus those who are birds, peak focus earlier?
Yeah. In those books that I read, there was no difference brought out in that sense. But it reminds me of another really good book, Why We Sleep by Matt Walker, where he definitely confirms the fact that people are either night owls or early birds. So in that sense, he does bring out some recommendation in how to manage in a world that is so solely focused on early birds. Yeah, but I didn't see any differences in the sleeping pattern in those books. Nope.
Thank you, Kristina. We still have some 2 minutes and no questions in Slido. So please submit your questions if you have any. And if there's anything you would like to add, Kristina, this is the time for that.
Yeah, I guess this is something that you can start to maybe integrate it step by step, kind of trying to analyze yourself that how do I find the peak performance? Where is my, there's this psychologist called Mihail Csikszentmihalyi, the most beautiful name ever, that he talks about the flow condition, which is this condition where you don't even understand that you are working. You are so, in a good way, immersed and so lost in the task at hand. I think to be completely honest, I totally feel I am in the flow at the moment. And that it's difficult because I'm talking about a very complicated topic. But trying to understand, when does this happen for you? What impacts it? And how can you bring more of it to the forefront? I think that before this presentation, I was a bit nervous. I saw that, to be honest, at my previous presentation, my pulse was 115 in some points. But I think that this, at the moment, for me, this is the most important event ever, because all the people here at the CARE conference, we are fighting for animals. We are doing something so important. So for me, that helped me to come on, forget about your fears, do your best for this presentation. I was able to bring more of that peak performance type of thinking to the forefront, which probably helped me be more focused on this difficult task. So yeah. there are options for that in different tasks on how to make sure that you are at your best.
Thank you, Kristina. We are running